So I just got back from seeing Avatar the movie, and I can safely say that it does live up to most of the hype, which is kind of outstanding considering how much hype there was built up for this movie. It was a little ridiculous at a lot of times. The visual effects are amazing, and the 3D is really cool, and all of that's really great. The story, on the other hand, was somewhat disappointing a lot of the time. That none of the dialogue is that fantastic. For instance, I can't name a single quote from the movie right now. Usually I have something that sticks out at me in any real good movie, but the dialogue just wasn't there. And the story is all throughout the entire film, not just the dialogue, is a little formulaic for my taste. You've heard the story about 1,000 times. A guy who goes in to exploit the native people but then ends up siding with them. Pocahontas, Dances with Wolves. You've heard it 1,000 times. But it is really well executed this time, so I can really see how people, even though they've heard the story, would really want to see it again. I, for one, loved it, and I saw every twist or turn that they were throwing at me a mile ahead of time. It wasn't exactly like one of those things that really shocks you with an ending or has a really severe plot twist or anything like that. But I still found myself enjoying it, and despite it's almost 3 hours in length, I never found myself bored or waiting for something to happen, or I was constantly intrigued with the movie. And I think a lot of that has to do with the immersiveness of the world that they've created, because the story is not just the dialogue or what's happening, but it's also sort of the environment around them. You can see there's a lot of depth in just about everything. For instance, when they're walking through the forest, not only are you listening to what the characters are saying back and forth to each other, but you're sort of in this awe at the environment that they've created around them. It's strikingly beautiful, and throughout the movie, even though they stay on the same planet of Pandora, there's always something interesting around the next turn just because of what the environment offers. And it's really, really interesting in that regard, even though you do sort of lose interest in the story after a while. My favorite part of the movie was really the middle, because at the beginning I really hated the main character. Like, you have no idea. I did not like the main character at all. He's a moron. Like, that's pretty much the best way to put it. He's just a complete idiot. And you absolutely, or at least I did, I absolutely hated him. So at the beginning I had a really hard time identifying with the character before he actually got into his avatar body and began to change his personality. And I also didn't like the end as much, because at the end they have a really cool action sequence that is fun for a time, but then they drag it on so long that big action sequence really could have been cut off a good distance beforehand. They even do that cheesy thing like in The Patriot, where in the middle of the giant battle, you know, you have the main good guy and the main evil guy stopping in the middle of the frickin' fight to have a cheesy one-on-one battle, and it really doesn't come across that well. And I know they were trying to make it dramatic and personal in the battle, but it just seems so unrealistic that I didn't find myself enjoying that bit at all. The CG team does deserve super mega props for the realisticness of the environment, and also the Na'vi people, just with their facial expressions and all of the different things going on with their bodies is intensely amazing. They look like actual living things, and they look more like grown and organic than CG. It's really neat how they did it. The CG wasn't as good on like the helicopters or the mech suits. That was probably because I know what metal is supposed to look like, and I could be more specific and detailed, as if I were looking at a creature that I've never seen before, I can just accept whatever sort of textures they give me. But regardless, everything is really amazing CG, so even just on a technical standpoint, I would go just for that. You do definitely want to see this movie in 3D. It is really impressive, and it's not that sort of cheesy 3D where they do that popping out at the screen thing. They never opt for anything like that. It's just sort of very subtle differences in depth, and it really adds a whole layer to the cinematography. And you may not notice it a lot of the time, but it's there, and it's really sort of cool how it makes the scene that much more real and that much more personal. So overall, I really enjoyed Avatar. It had a minor disappointment in the story and the dialogue, but if you go in sort of expecting that the dialogue isn't going to be that great and just allow yourself to be immersed in the environment, it is definitely worth paying for.